For those of you who have not been here before, this is Moonstone's weekly reading. We're here every night at 7 p.m. and we usually start with a few featured readers and then follow up with an open mic. But I'm really excited for our feature lineup tonight. And to begin, I would love to bring up Mia Kang, who is the author of City Poems, Apparent Signs, and the winner of the 2023 Airlie Prize for All Empires Must. She lives in Philadelphia with 2 cats, is the executive director of the Philadelphia Folklore Project. She holds a PhD in the history of art from Yale University, and she is taught at Hunter College, the Cooper Union, University of the Arts, and Yale College. Please welcome Mia Kang.
Thank you so much. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
All right. First poem is called Abracadabra, and this is for Eric and Patricia. List of things to banish can include words, people, theoretical apparatuses. Can take the form of a grocery list, a scientific experiment, or a manifesto. Can read like a personal ad of unwanting. Can summon aid to help with banishing. Can be uncertain of what will remain. Can have no positive mission statement. Can be written in a language other than language. Can circulate amongst friends only. Can evade being imagined, written, embodied, archived. Can go like this. Can make itself irrelevant. Can include buildings, brushstrokes, and other abominations. Can mean my way of life is unlivable. Can mean my life is as yet unlived. Can mean I must become a menace to my enemies. Can undo futurity forever in favor of. Can remake futurity into someone who doesn't recognize herself. Can punctuate the present like a cup of coffee or a Monday. Can be dreamed up and shot down and elongated. Can tell us something. Can include forms and fantasies, even the ones getting us by. Can instigate an interregnum. Can be unfinished. Can include hope, hopefully. Can be blank, but don't kid yourself, it isn't. And it can't include history. Repair, for Ryan. I like to talk about the metal in my body. It's a punchline, like falling down the stairs and breaking an ankle because the cat was beautiful in the moonlight because I had enjoyed too much. There are plates and screws in there, I tell people, here and here, pointing. Sometimes they ask if I beep when I go through security. I haven't yet, but I hope one day to become myself the alarm. I had to quit my job and leave my home and go under. While I couldn't walk, my body expelled itself, the drilled out bone dust suctioned away, as in a spring cleaning. I show off the big scars, still raised and purple, hiding the hardware. I want it out, I tell everyone. But what is truer is I'm happy to be changed. Would never wish not to know the surprise. I gather my hammers and come over. You can hold your applause to the end. Will you? A designer dog licks the face of an affect theorist. I wrap myself in a personality. Test. When we hug on camera, a crackle. Skin against polyurethane produces noise or heartbeat effect when tapped. When an ominous luminosity, what do? You get along best with a personality. If my dog doesn't like you, we can't do theory. Effects have a point. On a scale of 1 to 10, what would you do? I wrap my knuckles when I misbehave, indicating and slobbering. Would you rather know the answer or the question to this question? The face of the affected cracks a smile, but we can fix that in the edit. I don't have a type. I type into the keyboard. She comes out of the slot slick for me to collect my change. Castigo de Dios, Hudson, New York. Shouting in Spanish, the workers toss plastic, paper, pulleys out onto the grass. A trio of bay windows frame the descent. Michael called me, feeling his mortality. Don't worry about me, he said. Make David famous. I refused. In David's paintings, all the men have wings or tails. His weakness is words. They appear where they shouldn't. Writing history, I tried to explain. Your work, the workers. What I mean is money. David leaves a voicemail. I always think of you with purple orchids in your hair. A museum asked permission to print an image, then never paid him. We adjust the viewfinder. I had a bad relationship. My lover floated down, crushing me. There's no saving grace. That's not a good investment. Thank God, he will die anonymous. They both will. The next few are from a digital micro chapbook that came out this summer from Ghost City Press that you can download for free at the Ghost City Press website. It's called Apparent Signs, and this poem is called Subscription. No response. When this happens, they say the device is bricked. Who knows what went on between then and now? It was going so well. The proposals, the renewals. I went west to get a spare, almost thinking I'd lost my key. The new job is no joke. I can't keep my property about me. I mean my wits, scaling the chain link, stepping down for the trolley doors to open. Can you explain this error in the kerning, this obvious difference in emphasis? I almost lost my ability to no avail. Self-portrait in a bad market. So we leave the site. The construction era has ended. Now we simply superimpose. The figure has no grounds. Prairie is as much ocean. Who's taller? Who shoots off the catch? Encrypt as in final resting place, as in home. But I don't sleep, you know that. Worried about the give and the get. Every transaction ends with rose petals and regret. Bad math. The thought comes from nowhere or from every cell. They call it ideation, but it's more like gesture, a felt extension into space. Fingers paint in air, the wingspan opens the clavicle. I was in a photograph here, the green and white tile behind me, my newfound holding the lens. Unknown city, that moment of following, gladly led, before the downshift into tagging along. If I can quit one thing, it'll be my ability to plus one. If I can quit two, it'll be memory. Accessory dwelling unit. Suppose every landmark makes me sick. We descended into stations, her basement apartment, the darker bars. Swap the coupe for a rocks glass, I'd tell them, and once upon a time, that was love. This is not the part where I explain her preferences. I've rehearsed that enough, and it never gets applause. Kneeling on the bed, face to the frosted window, eyes at ground level. Make the joke. I, too, turned out to be stemware. All right. When I came up here, the Phillies were up 1-0 against the Mets. So I'm going to read this because I have no control over the Phillies, and this won't jinx them. Mound visit. Imagine you're a pitcher, but there's no bullpen. Your arm gets fucking tired, and you're not all that good to begin with. Imagine being the 5th starter, except there are no other starters. Think of how much you let down your team. There's no one on your team. You carefully launch each pitch. Fastball, sinker, slider. They spin away from you and never stop. The ballpark is like a planet with no edges and just sky everywhere. Balls keep appearing in your hand. You know the score. You track everything. You look at the catcher who isn't there and try to communicate. You obey the pitch calls, except the ones you shake your head to veto. The balls all stay in the air. They just keep going, out into space. You reach for the chalk. It's going badly. The outing never ends, yet you barely make it 3 innings. From nowhere, a figure approaches the mound. On the big screen, you stand close, heads bowed together for a few moments. A ball appears in your hand. After the visit, it gets worse. Am I going to say anything about this one? I'll just say I work in nonprofits. Midwinter Day, 2023. We want the keys to the coffers, but would you settle for a monument? Would you settle for a praise song, for an uninterrupted day, for the knowledge of having tried, for procedure, for the right people being in the room, for precious rest? Would you settle for a cemetery? Would you settle for seduction by repetition, for rhythm, for naming names, for honoring the ancestors? Would you settle for a narrative arc, for a box that closed all the way and had no leaking seams? Would you settle for a sent message, for the potential that was activated, for what we learned along the way? Would you settle for a single family detached? Would you settle for a double garage, for dirty lenses, for the hope of the new generation? Would you settle for generativity? Would you settle for one more pour? Would you settle for stopping, for sobriety, for cold wind and sun, for the friend in your pocket? Would you settle the very future with your incessant being, your regrettable troubles, your hindsight, your hand on the door to the end of the world? Would you settle for the world, for its spending, for penance? This last poem is for the 76ers, since they're back. Trust the process. Joel Embiid recovers. It would be like thumbing a wound, so I do it. The great thing about pain is proof of life. Any calculation might pay off. I had too much pride, which was love. I couldn't give up. No one told me to sit down. They told me I had a choice, to wait and see, or to go for it. I've been here before. Repair could be, in fact, unending. Thank you.
I'm very excited to introduce our next poet, Elena Nofs. Elena is the author of It's Not Them, It's Me, a collection of poetry published in 2019. She is also the sorceress behind the poetry series Blossoming, which runs almost monthly out of West Philadelphia. A collection of her written words can be found on her Substack at www.ALLAYANOFS.substack.com. Please give a warm welcome to Elena Nofs.
The first one is called On What Stains. I only know you in the cold, landlocked lips blanketing eyebrow curves. The light bounces off the snow and refracts in your eyes, one brown and one blue. Slipping from the gutter, a solstice feast trickles, siphoning water to whatever needs engorging. My raincoat, this morning's shredded wheat, ripped in half by the wash cycle, and nobody ever suspected me. Crimson teeth spit in the sink, flossed a bit too hard to rinse with the mouthwash on your side of my double-decker bathroom. You are porcelain, you are mint after frost. How much longer until I can walk across the hall or roll across the bed to dampen your pillow after my never-ending nightmares? Last night it was the one where everyone is pulling knives, burying tangled tongues in the summertime. Blanket wrapped atop long ago glass, I come as clean as the sky was that day. It couldn't be more different than this morning, here, at the other end of it all. I drove here alone, along the road we took together. I crossed you off the list I made. Temptation settles deep. My mother raised me for this. She did not need to tell me so. I could feel it. Hot and palpable was her desire to be happy. And who was I to stand in her way? Her only daughter. It seeped into me slow, like ink. It stuck to me. Now look at me, a woman in chase. Me, who is dying to find a way in. I have tried to scale walls and to poke holes. All I see is sand. It is an opportunity. It falls through my fingers. I see flat, mid-morning plains, horizon lines. All I am left with lies in these hands. All I am left with replays behind my eyes. Thrilled to reach the brink of a sunset edge, I'm on my toes, ready to slide downward. I paid no mind to whether or not there was a net waiting below to catch me. I can tell you now there was no such safety. Is there ever? Now I float through a place full of the dead, mourning my own losses, fighting ghosts and anger, and wondering what it might feel like to try again. To gather myself, dig deeper. wondering what it might feel like to die and be buried here in a vast sea of names. I rage past that empty space, that what I thought was wellspring, that blooming patch of grass. I continue on. I fly. This is new, so it's great. It's fine. A visitor in someone else's home, I gathered the strength to say, "Do not disrespect me in a house that does not belong to you," in spite of my fear of him. And he said something, but I heard, "I live here, so the furnace answers to me." I, a real adult despite myself who pays rent, knows this is not how it works. Nobody does my laundry but me. And my mother, who lives there, doing the laundry for 4, stammered but did not know what to say. While the boxers I told her not to get circled me, sharks sniffing blood pumping in my ears. They wait for me to rise. They wait to stand, growing my full height in no time at all, to stomp on my chest, beating. They, like human children, learn by example. They do what their mother taught them. Her home is so changed by chew marks and dirt tracks, but she hides it well. She does not know what to say. My youngest brother asked to stay home from school because it's a waste. It's pointless. I'm not sure if he had a point, but everything in me was screaming. I waited for her. My mother did not know what to say, and when I caught her eye, she looked away. I yield. She whispers, "Yes, I'll get you a note," dismisses him, and goes to bed. It was an accident, they told me, and I didn't let my father see the news article from the small West Pennsylvania town. There was a photo. He is the father, but he shrunk so suddenly. How did I gain so much power overnight? He was broken, and I let him be. He had the same route every morning, they told me. And then there was this sudden change, this divergence, a big mystery dropped in my lap. I wrote the Facebook post because he asked me to. I think my mother asked me to do the same when her brother died the year before. I didn't apply for this job. We found something on his computer much later, after I helped my father clear out all the hard drives and the meteorological equipment, the crumbling scratch-offs, the overdue bills. He didn't need any of that anymore. I saw it, but I never meant to. It was an accident. I gained so much power overnight. I lost my uncle. In the dream, your eyes locked onto mine. You were so close, I still can't believe I wasn't wide awake. With no dream distortion between us, you said, "I want to tell you how I feel," and then floundered. This isn't something you'd say in the waking world. Something deep detected the dreaming then. That's when the distortion began. Messy, a laundry cycle. I couldn't stay much longer and as such got sucked back into my body. I suppose my subconscious mind allowed you redemption that you couldn't take advantage of. Your face now seared into my waking mind. I can think only of the quiet you greet me with. I am in awe of the brain, how it burns us up. I am in awe of the eyes, our memories of them. This is called To One Who Closes Down with the Night. In the night, I feel the chasm between us. Cold sheets might say so much if we could hear them. If I listened too long, attuned to their fibrous frequencies, I might lose my will to return to dream space. The midnight waking is loud with noticing. I struggle to gain purchase against what might devour me whole, blindly devout in the wake of indifferent ambivalence or some anthropological enigma. I am lost in the provocative dark. That lushness provides clarity. I am a pebble dropped into shallow water. I cannot skip. There is no room. I thought you might mirror me, though I worry I was mistaken. Just because you are my size, does not mean you bear any resemblance to me. You are not my kin. You are not my lover. Though you do lay there, as I still sometimes do with my mother, my head on her breast, head over heart. This is what we have to do sometimes. This is what it is to feel held. You there, laying atop me, listening to the sound of silence, or breathing, or looking out at that singular nothing. This is who you are, dear one who closes down with the night, who rolls out of bed with the morning, wordless, gazer of a million empty miles, you. I am out of things to say about your eyes, except that they are faraway things. I wave my hand across your face as a small reminder, a slow, concerted effort. I act more gently than I feel. Hello. It's me, stranded on the island of your bed. It is me, oxygen starved in 6 inches of water. It is me, head over heart. I'm right here, next to you in bed. If you shifted your focus to the foreground, would you see me? Got to left. Something in my body feels tougher than it once did. I may have been sucked down, let to burn a little too long. I know who I am, but there's some fog in the air. Knowing someone believes in you, that feels good. It smells like it always did, but on my lips now, too. I know how filthy a habit it is, and I know I'll have to kick this too. Look at how the leaves fall. Already it seems that we are here. How did that happen so fast? It's too early, isn't it? Because of the atmosphere and all of its warming. I know what's good for me, and you say it's not you, so I wander a little farther on, a woman in search. But am I really? I know my dreams. I hear the whispers of the forest. I can hear the rain over the shower gushing. My pen is out of ink. I have begun to write in an altogether new way, and I'm not sure how to go back. Not sure if I would. I'm traveling in circles in my mind and making lists about who I will screw next, in the metaphorical sense. On the list at all times is myself, my 2 cats, my brothers. Doomed. One of my earliest memories is of anger. Sometimes when I stand here, I feel like a ghost. Can you make out my words, or is it all moaning? Would it be better if that's all I was? Dry wind through brittle trees, biting. If you listen closely, you might catch me running through the night, but backwards, as if to retrace the steps of all I've done wrong. Thank you so much.
All right, give it up one more time for Elena Nofs, please. Next up, I would like to introduce Herman Beavers, a professor of English and Africana Studies at the University of Pennsylvania. His most recent poems have appeared in Cleaver Magazine, the American Arts Quarterly, and has been anthologized in the 2014 anthology of Featured Poets and Obsession, Sestinas for the 21st Century. He serves as an advisory editor for the African American Review, the Black Scholar, and Modern Fiction Studies. Please welcome Herman Beavers.
So, I'm so pleased to be here. My thanks to Larry, as always. I'm delighted to be here, and I'm going to be reading from a book that I am just about finished with. I wrote it last year. It's a new collection of poems titled In a Gash of Light. First poem is called Gash. Fist landing on the mark. Rage, an open bomb, an abysmal song, a sound dead as a stark sky. Hallway piling with children, atheist and weirdly smug. Shrieking across Babylon, claiming the indigo ink, swimming with stars. Murmur of ache from 1,000 bodies, the wind a lonely gash in a single fold of grief. There's a solitary elm, its skin cooling, the pull of every raucous ghost. Dead reckoning. Measured in the click of frames per second. History sheathed in Hollywood's flickering light. History sheathed in Hollywood's flickering light. Dead reckoned, traveling 24 frames per second. Traveling 24 frames per second, reckoning the false promise of a star's antic of light. The false promise of a star's antic of light leads us to shun the promise of daylight, clutching the phony promise of the dark, shunning the sun's face in favor of history's night song, its wind chime of myth. History's night song, twilight and erasure of black bodies swinging in mythic history's nightmare. Black bodies footnoted in myth's nightmare, measured in the click of frames per second. And that last poem is a duplex, which was pioneered by Jericho Brown. True North. Sidereal and reassuring, light attired in the color of plums, aching with sap, the trees throb of sweetness, vexing me. Grass browning under its pointed stare, a groundhog, back curved among the sycamore leaves, presses close against the gravel, dragging its famished, sullen ribcage. The night crashes open, twigs and mud, stale bread, so little motivation. In the chime of twilight, in the reel of things, escape a scheme so dazzling it brings me to tears. I can't help but to hug myself warm. In despondent and dubious skirmish, I wave colorful flags like a poultice, shifting away from all that moaning, the click and wander of the compass. My thrash, my umbrage, my sleepwalk, my bottomland, and isthmus forever straining toward true north. But this poem is autobiographical in a offhand sort of way. It's called Ship. His body tilting leeward, creaking in the wind, his eye opaque, his soul chalked against the red morning. Sky, a ship rudderless on a white sea, his body dreams awash in hubris. His body a deck awash, custodial with hubris, words a maelstrom, tongue struck dumb. My father's a maelstrom, words churn, casting my boy's body skyward, the moon's tidal embrace, a prophecy. Faring in and against the moon's pull, he hears whispers keeling across my blood, silencing a shout in his brain, hunching his back, tilting his black body a lee, scrawled like white chalk against the vista, a black man's personhood chalked across the sky, a leeward body howling in the wind. This is the title of this poem is simply Sestina. Whoever it was said, "We need have no fear of the dark." Must have forgotten the ancient machinery of the mind, its unlimited power to manufacture armies of ghosts. Folks down south say they can feel the power of sundown when the moon claws into an unrepentant sky and an inexplicable light cascades through their blood. Who reads the books we scrawl using our own blood? Why does our courage falter when we stare into the dark? Last night, I listened to a jet plane tearing open the sky. Wide awake, I felt like a gear slipping, my mind tumbling into overdrive, thoughts falling down a dark tunnel peopled with ghosts, each one holding a grudge, the way all ghosts do, I suppose. Wearing a mask painted with blood, I began to ask each phantom moving down the line if they could hear the dark music thumping in the rain, if they minded when the blues crowded everything out of the sky. Bending each note till sadness crouched above the sky so loudly it made their task as ghosts redundant. A single spirit spoke up. "Mind?" he asked. "Then would you like more blood tea?" He held out a cup filled with darkness, told me he would answer, but only if I drank it down to the dregs. As my thirst died, I knew deep down how pointless it was to scan a parchment made of sky for truth's missing limb. Do you like the darkness? The spirit asked. I felt the sensation of going ghost, my body opening to the air, the veins hauling my blood, singing a tune wrought from the mind of a Parker or a monk, whose afflicted minds could take rage or confusion or delight, strip them down as if their highest aspiration was to rob my blood of all its history. Lifted unwillingly into a cracked sky, I knew then that we are all of us ghosts, our tears lending substance to the dark. At sundown, I become cousin to the dark, a mind tracing the sky's preempted arc, the ghost of a dream echoing in the dark hallways of my blood. This poem is called Playing Somewhere Over the Rainbow, Art Pepper. So the title of the poem is actually the first line of the poem. Playing Somewhere Over the Rainbow, Art Pepper envies the bassist, playing like he's guiding a woman wearing a suit of gray English wool through a crowded ballroom, his left hand caressing her neck, searching for the root as her wide hips lean back against his body in soft refusal. His right hand flying over the strings, answering the questions flying from Art's horn, the piano player comps crunching down on thirds and sevenths, like looking at both sides of a coin, sound a heavy thundercloud of pain. Leaning so far into the chorus, it's like she's saying, Judy Garland, who the fuck is that? Art tunes like a ride on the old yellow dog. The train unwilling to yield right away. We ride for miles before we realize we've trekked over a prairie of pure sadness. Our shadows along the bank of the river's cold, arthritic meander. 2. Tonight, Pepper's asleep on top of the covers with all his clothes on, already knowing it'll be the usual dream, him on alto and Wardell on tenor. It's 1956 or 57, which must be wrong, but they're playing so good, folks all up and down Central stop whatever's doing to listen, both of them blowing 32nd and 64th notes like they ain't spelled tomorrow, so who gives two shits about the date? It's always the same. He'll look down, see Wardell standing in a small pile of Vegas desert sand. On the bridge, Wardell hits a grace note so sweet, Pepper's mind empties like he's a tub full of dirty water, and some bastards pulled the plug right before he can resolve a question he'd been burning to ask himself. Waking up, he notices the wallpaper peeling. He knows he's down the road a piece from the days he sported the armature armed to the teeth. It's November 1962, and just now he's seeing, as if for the first time, how light can hover like a question mark before it turns sad again. And so he sings, "Motherfucker, how did you score a ticket out of Oz?" Ars Poetica number 9. Crisis of faith passing through dreamscape as flat and dark as a black matte painting depicting an encounter from the vortex that is my past. There's the outline of a woman's face, a headscarf impersonating the howl of the storm, shards of a song, affrontando, shipwrecked across a hurricane's diaspora, pride lodged inside a tattered myth. My body turns to air, and just now I'm writing checks my spiritual won't cash. Disbelief shining from every face I pass. Just now, a woman, her gray eyes overcast, asking me my name. The song's rubble lolling there. Study number 1. A woman's eyes cut my face. Irises peeling back my facade's tacit agreements. The vacated corridors of my past. Its clumsy navigation of the discolored tragedy. Its cold might have beens, her ears blind, her tongue a fretless guitar, her body singing its fake book of old afflictions. And so it's a poem about poetry, but again, the way that I get there is music. And so Thelonious Monk and Art Blakey make an appearance in this poem, along with W.H. Auden for some reason. Time signatures. I don't have a clue what Monk would say if I asked him if humming gives way to knowing. I've heard him tangle with affliction's tight-fisted geometry, figure he knew weapons were trained on him, fixed his mind on the buzz of asymmetrical voicings of chords, comprehended the blessing of errant notes. You believe nothing happens fast enough. So telling me your heart's replete with bruises is not an argument. Lord, I envy the head you have for songs that mimic speaking in tongues, jangling with consternation, taught with renovated slang. I haven't lived long enough to form a pithy response to a single query regarding something dangerous as poetry. If poems could take the form of dreams, I would vouch for how I've landed in places I still can't fathom. Chillicothe, Ohio, Penumbra, Mississippi. One night I found myself in Brazzaville, Republic of Congo, and I was drinking warm Coca-Cola at a table with W.H. Auden and Art Blakey cadging change for the juke. I heard Blakey's gravelly voice saying, I swear, I didn't understand playing drums till I unlearned everything I thought I knew about time. And Auden agreed, uttered not a mumbling word. Study 2. And this poem makes mentions of Prestige. So Prestige Records, the recording company that recorded a lot of bebop in the late 1940s and 50s and early 60s. Study 2. Dreaming in flatted fifths, I'm making a record on Prestige. A nickel's worth of scores heaped and scrubbed in a white attic. My axe polished to starshine, mind a plucked string. I soloed my shadow into Gordian knots, trundled home, ignored my Irish cousin's restless haint, fell into bed wearing every single stitch. This last poem is dedicated to Gwendolyn Brooks. She sent me in the mail, in response to me sending her my chapbook, she sent me a copy of her novel, Maud Martha, and she wrote me the nicest note inside. So if you've not gotten a chance to read Gwendolyn Brooks, who in my mind is one of the top 3 or 4 poets of the 20th century. So Larry published a whole anthology of poems dedicated to Gwendolyn Brooks, and this is the poem that I submitted. It's called Requiem for Gwendolyn Brooks. Where some looked at blackness and saw nightmare, a path through the mind's worst neighborhood. Because she loved us so, she kept one eye peeled, repaired a cut, frightened moon. She navigated through midnight's unraveling, its casualties, semi-casualties, question marks. She taught us the eye needs grief to get used to the dark, that to be blue even a day meant everything your mother thought or said was true. She declared silence a necessary prelude to joyous laughter and bitter tears, seeking purchase against the world's savage list to starboard, everybody white, impatient at the slightest delay. She taught us our value lay in knowing waiting's plexus of costs. When the poet wondered aloud if time had come to be shut of the world's hard business, she taught donning the rags of an old man shambling through Bronzeville would yield up both pleasure and peace. When the sky piled suddenly with dark nimbus clouds, she prized every thunderstorm, felt barren trees shudder, blinked away lightning's blue steel flash, and gave every color in the world a name.